I was doing real good until then. Yes, we're pulling the curtain. PJNet.TV Part 2. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, and we are glad you're here, and you are in for a ride. You are in for a treat with the best of both worlds, a first-time guest and a first-time guest that is returning. It doesn't get any better than that. We've got them waiting in the green room. We got a chat room waiting to see them. Our bumper's running. We're streaming. We're recording. And let's count this thing down to Studio 7, starting now. Okay, we're off and running. This is PJNet.TV. Says so right there. Okay, you are watching it live, and what we do here is we provide a platform for everyday Christians to share their walk with Christ. And, well, they don't get more everyday and they don't get more Christian than our two guests that we have joining us today. See, I used to say ordinary Christians, but there really shouldn't be any such thing as an ordinary Christian, okay? So I've got, if Alexa, if you will please drop our monitors down, and there they are, we will, by the magic of what we do and how we do it, we will bring our guest first, starting over here. That's Pam Walker. She's a first-time guest. Behind me, you see as much of the logo from the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference as we could fit in the window. And over here, Carlton Hughes, who has been with us before, and Carlton's coming in a little bit hot, by the way. He is well. We'll get to his credentials in a moment, but we'll start with Pam. Okay, Pam. Tonight we want to talk about each of you individually for a little bit, but we want to then pivot and focus because the two of you are the engine under the hood of the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. So Pam, you're a very accomplished practitioner, a disciple of writing. But tell us more about your personal life, and then tell us your involvement in the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference.
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me, Mark, and thank you, Carlton, for joining me. I wanted to continue the celebration of our recent Kentucky Christian Writers Conference and wanted to bring some of my fellow committee members along with me. But yeah, a little bit about my writing journey, my background. I've always loved writing since I was very young, to junior high and high school. Pursued a degree in journalism and did some work in technical writing out of the gate, and really kind of fell away from my writing, the journalistic style writing for a while. Then I was brought back to my true love that never really went away, and I felt God pulling me. I felt the calling to apply my Christian faith with writing, and really felt called to pursue working for ministry. Eventually that dream came true, and I worked for Answers in Genesis from 2004 through 2009. Had always dreamed of, so I worked with Ken Ham, got to see the Creation Museum come to life, which was amazing. Mm-hmm. And I got to write radio scripts for Ken Ham, write articles for the website. And eventually, when they wanted to start a magazine, I was tapped to work with a publisher to help build a magazine, Answers magazine, from scratch, which was a total dream come true. And so I did that for 5 years, living out my dream. And sadly, the dream ended. And so, they made some changes on the magazine. So then I went back to left ministry and was working in project management. And for 7 years, I did not write anything. anything creative. I served in my church, but that calling was still there. And 7 years later, it was a Christian writers conference, and encouragement of a really good friend who encouraged me to get back there, to get back into it. And so that was a while back, and that conference led me eventually to the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference, and I made a connection. Well, not at Kentucky Christian Writers Conference, but the other conference. I connected with the editor of Today's Christian Living, and it was really through those connections that really helped, and the encouragement of other believers, and God, of course, to get back into pursuing my dream of writing.
Well, so you bring a lot of expertise to the table, degree in journalism, and then, this is the A team. The other ingredient in the recipe, Carlton, a professor of all things communications. What qualifies you to even talk to a Kentucky, to get involved in a writers' conference?
Well, and I actually had a double major, and I'm a professor of communication and journalism. So Pam and I have that in common, I guess. My story is very similar to Pam's. Except I became a Christian very late in life. I was in my early 30s, and I'd always, like Pam, I'd always been a writer, done mostly journalism type things. And it was about 2004, I think, that I just felt really strongly calling me to write. Literally, one night I was turning the computer off, and I really felt God saying, "Sit down and write," and I did, and it was creative writing, and then so I started looking around to, how could I maybe get published, and what's the process. I had no idea, and I found Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. I found that I think my first attendance was in 2005, and I just the writing and publishing bug bit me, I guess, and I've been to every Kentucky Christian Writers Conference since then, and I became a part of the planning committee, I think, in about 2008, and I've served a lot of different roles on that, and now I've served so long and got so old, I guess I'm on the executive board now, and so, I'm on the executive board, and we kind of help steer the planning committee and deal with different issues, and it's just been a labor of love. It's a great way to, if it's a great way to give back and to help reach the next round of people who want to write it for Christ.
Well, I'm glad you're on the executive board, because Pam, I'll switch back to you. In today's world, it's a new world since 2020. It really calls upon the executive board to navigate through the minefield of the new way things that are done. And on the one hand, there's new opportunities that have never been explored before. But on the other hand, the old ways just don't work the same anymore. How do you grapple with that? And Carlton, I want you to weigh in on it too, but let's start with Pam.
Yeah. Well, I think back to 2020. So I've been on the committee now for 3 years. Started off as a historian, so I have all the scrapbooks, in case, Carlton, you're wondering where they're at. And then I have been the faculty chair. But so I think back to 2020, March 2020. We were in the midst of planning our conference for June, and then COVID hit, and the whole world changed. And so we were like, wow, like that was the first time we had to really pivot and change courses from an in-person conference to online, to making it virtual. And the committee, like, we all prayed, and we were like, we want to bless other people, because the world is hurting so bad. And so we're like, we're going to make our conference for $20.20, which I thought was cool. And so we made that available, and we ended up with 400. It was just so amazing how God brought everything together. I mean, that was the first time. We seem like we know what we're doing now, right, Carlton?
We try.
Yes. So anyway, back in 2020, just to see God pull everybody together and make it happen, especially with our technology folks, Hallie and Greg Bridgman are so amazing. So we had 400 people show up from all over the world, which was so cool.
Yes.
Carlton, it must have been a shock. I mean, because, you've done things for years this way and you think you got the formula down, you got the recipe down. Now the game changes. How grievous was this for the executive board?
I'll speak to that. First of all, I teach. I'm a professor, and I also teach some high school classes. And so I had to learn to pivot. This old dog had to learn new tricks just in my job. All of my classes went virtual. And so I was like this teaching. And so I draw that parallel with Kentucky Christian Writers because we didn't want to abandon the conference. We didn't want to say we're not having it at all. And we were just blessed with, as Pam mentioned, Hallie Bridgman and Greg Bridgman, husband and wife team, who are just amazing with the technology. I mean, once we decided as an executive board, we've got to keep this going and we want to do it virtual, and it's unknown territory, but we did it and it was so successful. We had people in other states who got together and had watch parties and did the conference together. We picked up. Now the Kentucky Christian Writers Planning Committee has several members who are all spread out from other states, all the way in Montana, because they did the virtual conference. They loved it so much they wanted to give back, and so it's been a thing where God just took those ashes, that we thought, what are we going to do? And He's just made something beautiful and something bigger than any of us could ever have imagined. I mean, we never would imagine 400 people. I mean, if we had 100 people at a previous in-person conference, we were just blowing it out of the water, and we had 400. Right. Now we've continued for 3 years, maybe not that peak, but it's been an amazing thing.
Well, that's music to my ears, both of you, because I have been for years pleading with the church culture to get on board digitally, to use the tools that technology has to offer. But so often we're reluctant to embrace these. We're afraid. But it sounds like, but with COVID, it was a blessing in a way, in a disguise, because it forced us. I don't think if COVID would not have come along, I don't think churches would have done that. And the challenge now is, will we retreat back to the old way? Will we lose that momentum on the digital battlefield? Now, you've mentioned you were blessed with some great engineering. Did that just fall in your lap? Was that somebody you both knew? How did, because
Absolutely.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, they were already on the committee.
Okay.
God knew what He was doing when He put that committee together. They were already there, and they were just, Hallie and Greg are just really good at technology. And so they just took the ball. They did the research. They found out how we could make it happen on Zoom. And since that first virtual conference of ours, they have run several other virtual conferences. Yeah. Because they're so
almost
good.
Like a ministry. It's almost like a ministry.
Exactly.
Right. A new industry has been born. And new ministry opportunities. The digital space is now more real, more accessible, and more, and people have acclimated themselves to it. If you would have said, "Hey, Zoom, let's Zoom," if you'd have said that 4 years ago, people would look at you like, "Huh?" Now they know, and it's commonplace.
It's funny.
I'll my camera on.
Yeah. I'll just throw in, I had never heard of Zoom, and when Hallie and Greg came on the committee, and Hallie was the coordinator for 2020, but about a year or two before that, she started having the committee meetings on Zoom. I had never heard of it before. Didn't even know what it was, and thought I was going to break it when I got on it. And I thank God for Hallie and Greg, because when the pandemic hit, I'm like, wow, I know about Zoom. I know what to do.
Yeah, that's funny. So Hallie and Greg, like for our conference, we'll have practice sessions with our faculty, making sure that everybody feels comfortable with the technology and running through their presentations. We were able to organize one-on-one appointments virtually with faculty and conferees. And they were running like 4 classes simultaneously through Zoom, Greg and Hallie, and just keeping things running.
Well, Pam, since you have confessed to be the keeper and curator of the scrapbook, before we talk about this year's conference and kind of relive some highlights from that, let's go back to the mid-1980s when the inspiration, the spark, ignited. Yet for 10 years it lay dormant, but then it took off.
So talk about like what I was doing.
The history of the conference itself.
Yes. Yeah. So I love being the historian. It's really cool just to look through the archives, and I was just looking through that like recently after this last conference, and looking at just all the amazing faculty that we've had, and reading about the founder, Kate, and how Kate Thomas, she purchased in 1997. She had God gave her an idea of like, oh, it'd be so amazing to start a conference in Kentucky, in the heart of Kentucky. But she didn't know how, she had a lot of faith, but not as much knowledge as she would like. And so she had purchased 500 names of prospective attendees from Sally Stewart. And you can read about her story in some of our, I think it's on our website.
And the website is on the screen right up there, kychristianwriters.com. Is that right?
Yeah, but it's an amazing story. And Carlton, I don't know if you knew her.
Yes. Kate, I've attended several of the conference that Kate was there, and she was just an awesome lady, and still is an awesome lady, but she really wanted to encourage writers, and she had this vision from God, and she had attended other writers conferences, not in our state, and she really felt God saying, why not Kentucky? And she gathered a team of people and made it happen, and it's just become an amazing thing. Thousands of people have been blessed by that dream that God gave that one lady. It's amazing.
All right, Carlton, let's have some fun.
I
have some images here. I don't know what this is, but it looks somewhat like the Eagle's Nest production studios of PJNet with those 4 monitors, plus 3 laptops. So we have a total of 9 monitors here. What am I looking at?
I think what you're looking at, it's hard for me to see, but I think what you're looking at is Hallie and Greg's command center.
Yes.
And so they have this just at their house, and they're running, we would run up to 4 classes concurrently, at the same time. And so they're monitoring every one of those. And then there were breakout rooms running at the same time for conferees to have one-on-one appointments. That's a very important part of going to a Christian Writers Conference is being able to meet a publisher, an editor, a faculty member who's been there before. And so Hallie and Greg, the whiz kids, were running all of that at the same time. And then, but another aspect of the members of the committee and the executive board, we each would pick different sessions to be the host. We would be the host. And so what we would do, we would be in the class, we would introduce the speaker and the subject, and then we would monitor the chat for attendees to type in questions, and then we would facilitate the questions toward the end of the session. And so Hallie and Greg were the brains behind that technical part, and then the rest of us committee members would be hosts of individual sessions.
Well, I've never met your engineers, but I feel like I have a kindred connection to them because I am Okay, Pam, let's turn this one over to you.
All right.
This doesn't look like a virtual anything. This is real people in a room.
So this is a character named Harleen that a lot of Kentucky Christian Writer Conference folks know. She's become quite famous, and she has a friend named Bub that Carlton knows very well. And she came to our social hour on the on our virtual conference this year, as well as Bub, her friend Bub. And this is what's that, Bub? Or sorry, Carlton.
Yeah, Bub was there too.
Yeah. So no, this is Rhonda Dragomir, who is one of our faculty members, and she has a cousin, Harleen, that frequents our conference, and it keeps us entertained and laughing.
Well, the Bible has a story about big hair, and so why not?
Yeah.
Well, this Carlton, I'll toss this one over to you. There's a lot of characters here. You probably can't tell which screen that is, but that apparently is a class in session.
That was the social hour, actually. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
social hour.
Social hour. Yeah.
So you can see Harleen. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see Bub is the one with the gray hair and the red bandana toward the center.
Okay, I thought maybe that was a homeless person that drug in.
That was Bub and I are really close. We're just like that. But anyway, but yeah, we felt like, when you go to an in-person conference, the highlight for many people, especially for me, is getting to know the people and getting to hang out with the people and find out where they're from and what they write and what God has laid on their heart. And we didn't want to lose that, even though we were a virtual conference. And so we came up with the concept of building in breaks where attendees could join a social hour. They could join a Zoom session. It was very informal. It was just people talking and getting to know each other. And it just really added an element. I was amazed with our first one in 2020, how people just connected. It was just, it was, you could tell it was from God, that people just connected, and they still had that networking opportunity, and they still had that time to sit around. They still had the time to say, I'm trying to write this thing and this didn't work, and what do I do? And had people to help them and so on. So the social hour was a very important part, and I think a very effective part of our virtual conferences.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you filled me in on that, because I thought that was it is casual. Now this, Pam, is a little bit less casual looking.
Yeah. So this was at the end of the conference. We had all the faculty come back together, just kind of as a debrief to give feedback of things they felt like the faculty felt went well, areas we can improve, and just kind of a time to just come back together and in prayer and just praise God for what He did throughout the weekend.
Well, I'm looking at the clock, and we're actually we're running a little overtime, but that's wonderful, because we do have the extra time, and I appreciate both of you. I know each of you have your separate lives, and you've it's trying to get people to do this is kind of like herding cats, or baptizing cats in some cases, and you all have been very, very forthcoming and generous with your time. Let's look to the future a little bit. This, you've done the virtual conferences. What are the plans in the future? What dreams do you have? What goals do you have? And when do you start planning next year?
We've already started planning for next year.
I kind of knew that was happening.
Yeah. And we're looking at changing to an October date, the first week of October, which will be a change for our conference. It's usually been in June. But we've already started looking at faculty for next year, soliciting ideas for keynotes. So I'm already excited about next year. And
okay, so
we're still hearing testimonies from people, which is really cool.
Yeah, Carlton, what's your take? She's saying next year. Would that mean October 2023?
Yes. We are. we had some conflicts with some other events in the Elizabethtown, Kentucky area where we have the conference, and we felt like moving to the fall would make it easier for our attendees. And Kentucky's a beautiful place to visit in the fall, and so we felt that would be another advantage. And we actually, in 2019, we started having the conference at the community college in Elizabethtown. They're very gracious. They host us for free, just pretty much give us run of their conference area. And we're working with them to probably host it during their fall break, so we wouldn't have to worry about getting in the way of students.
And
so
plenty
on.
of parking and
Plenty of parking and everything. So we're looking for October 2023, and we still haven't exactly firmed down a date, but like Pam said, it looks like it's probably going to be the first weekend of October. And we just think, change is good. I mean, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever, but God's always wanting to do a new thing. And so we're very excited to see what he does with that new conference in 2023.
We've talked about the executive committee, and we see the two of you, but it's more than just the two of you, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, there's a whole committee of people.
Yeah. The executive board is 3 people, myself, Hallie Bridgman that we've been talking about, and Leanne Young Johnson. She is that's executive committee. And then the planning committee, which Pam is our wonderful faculty chair, is several people. I think it's Pam, 8 to 10 people.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
A lot of talent, a lot of diversity.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without our faculty, of course.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like that. God has led some very capable people together, and I commend both of you for navigating through some very challenging times and turning those challenges into opportunities. And I think that's the way life is. And I think that with God as our strength, when we see obstacles and hurdles, not only can we overcome, we can surpass our wildest expectations. And I'm just glad to know more about what God is doing through the two of you and your work with the rest of the team for the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. And we want to hear more. But thank you all for generously sharing your time, and it's been fun. I've really enjoyed this, and we hope that God's will continue to bless your individual ministries and your ministry as a team for the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. Thanks for sharing, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's been a joy to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carlton, for joining
thank you.
tonight as well.
Thank you, Pam, for the invite.
We did.
Yeah.
Tell Bob we said hello.
There we go. Well, that was fun. Okay. Well, folks, that was a great way to wrap it up for me this week. I work, Monday through Thursday here, and it is a pleasure to just, God has intersected us with so many wonderful Christians from all over with various talents and various personalities, various life experiences, and each of you, have a story to tell about what God is doing in each of our lives. And it's just such a thrill to do this night after night, Monday through Thursday. Now, Friday night I get off, but we are on the air because Steve Hazards takes the helm on Friday. And he will start at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we kind of let our hair down, and we play some jazz and some retro stuff and some classics, but that's all the warm-up. Because at 10 p.m. Eastern, he uncorks his program, My Perspective and Comment. And it has become, I remember the first one he did was like 10 minutes, and I think he would himself admit that it wasn't that good. But but he's getting good at this, and he is wound up, and he will look back for the past week and look at some of the current events that are happening in our world today, how it affects each of us, but he's looking at it through the Christian worldview lens. And then he will do he preaches. It's wonderful. I hope that if you can, please make it. That starts at 10 p.m. Eastern. And we will be back. I will be back next week. And gosh, we are booking first-time guests like crazy. We're booked. I mean, we've only got a few openings next month. I mean, we're slammed. So go to pjnet.tv. There's a thing there called the schedule. Click that button, and you can literally see. And everybody has a story to tell, and it's such a privilege, such an honor to have a place that we can just share as Christians and just share our experiences, share our joys, share our sorrows. And, we are called to do that. Okay. So, all right. So as I leave, I will ask you to ask yourself 2 questions. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Second question, how long ago was that? And the challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.